The sky is dark and full of heavy clouds. The wind is cold and dry, and the trees move slowly in the middle of the night. Something flashes across the sky like a falling star, but brighter and faster. It crashes into the ground with a deep echo somewhere. Far outside the human colony, nobody sees it except a young boy named Jax, who lives near the edge of the junkyard. Jax is not like other boys. He does not go to school, and he does not have many friends. He spends his days fixing broken machines and building robots from scrap. He knows every corner of the junkyard. He loves it because it is full of forgotten things. He believes everything has a purpose, even the broken ones. That night, Jax cannot sleep. His small robot pet named Rollo keeps making strange beeping sounds. Jax steps outside and looks at the sky. He sees a faint trail of smoke in the distance near the back of the junkyard. His heart beats faster. He grabs his flashlight and walks into the darkness with Rollo following behind. The deeper he goes, the stranger things feel. The air becomes heavy and the silence is deep. Then he sees it. Half buried under metal trash and broken parts is a glowing capsule. It is about the size of a small car, smooth and silver with strange blue lines all over it. It is not made by humans. Jax can tell that right away. He walks closer and touches the surface. It is cold, but humming like it is alive. There is a symbol on it that shines for a moment and then disappears. Jax looks through a small glass window on the side. His eyes go wide. Inside the capsule is a girl. She looks around his age, but not human. Her skin is light blue, and her hair is silver and glowing. Softly, she is not moving. Her eyes are closed and her hands are folded on her chest. She looks peaceful but also lost. Jax feels something strange in his chest, like he is looking at someone who should not be alone. Finds a small panel on the side of the capsule and tries to open it. He uses his tools, and after a few tries, the hatch unlocks with a soft hiss. The door opens slowly and cold mist comes out. The girl's body twitches. Her fingers move slightly. Jax steps back. Rollo beeps in fear. The girl's eyes open fast. They are bright white and full of panic. She looks around quickly, and then her eyes land on Jax. She screams. It is loud and strange and full of fear. Jax raises his hands. He says, "No, no, it is okay. You are safe." She does not understand his words. She looks at him like he is a threat. Then she tries to get out of the capsule, but she falls to the ground. Her legs are weak and her body shakes. Jax runs to her and catches her before she hits the ground. She tries to push him away. Her voice is soft but broken. She says something in a strange language. Then suddenly she grabs his arm tight and says one word in English, "Run." Jax looks around. Nothing is there, but her eyes are wide with fear and her breathing is fast. She repeats the word again, "Run." Then she faints in his arms. He does not know who she is. He does not know where she came from. But he knows one thing: someone threw her away. Someone wanted her gone. He looks up at the stars above. He holds her gently and starts walking back to his garage with Rollo beside him. The wind becomes stronger. And far above in the clouds, something is watching. Night is still quiet, but the wind carries a strange energy, like something is watching from the shadows. Jax walks fast through the junkyard with the alien girl in his arms and his robot Rollo beside him, beeping softly. The glowing capsule stays behind, half buried in the trash, like a secret that never wanted to be found. Jax's heart beats loud in his chest, but he does not stop. He reaches his garage and locks the door behind him as the girl lies unconscious on his old work table. The room is dim and smells like metal, oil, and wires. Jax grabs a blanket and covers her. He watches her for a long time. Her skin shines blue, and her face looks calm now, like a child sleeping after crying. She is not a machine. She is not a threat. She is someone lost and broken. Jax has seen many broken things, but nothing like her. Hours pass and the first light of morning touches the sky. The girl stirs, her eyes open slowly, and she sits up with a gasp. Her eyes move fast, scanning the room, and then she looks at Jax. This time she does not scream. She blinks once, then twice, and says nothing. Jax holds up his hands and says, "Come, you are safe." He gives her water and she drinks with shaky hands. Asks her name, but she does not speak. He shows her objects and points to them. He says robot light hand sky. She watches, listens, and then finally speaks in a soft voice. Iria Jax nods and smiles and repeats her name. She says Jax after him, and he nods again. For hours they try to talk. She learns faster than anyone Jax has ever met. She touches a broken tablet, and it lights up like it remembers her. She fixes wires without tools and connects to machines with her hand. Jax watches in awe. She is not just alien, she is intelligent, powerful, and something else he cannot name. Later that day, she draws something on the wall with chalk. It is a tall figure with glowing eyes and long arms like a shadow. She draws a small version of herself with an X on it. Then she points to the capsule on the screen and says thrown away, broken, not wanted. Jax feels cold as he understands. Tells him she comes from a planet where children like her are seen as errors. Her kind has no emotion, no kindness, no love. They use machines for all things and destroy anything that feels. She was different, born with something inside her that they feared. So they called her broken and sent her away in the capsule to die in the stars like trash. Jax cannot speak for a moment. He remembers how people called him useless when he was small, how he fixed things so they would not be alone like him. He feels connected to her in a way he does not understand. She is not broken, she is like him. As night falls, again a strange sound fills the room. Rollo freezes and his eyes turn red. He begins to move without command and speaks in a deep robotic voice. Target found, begin elimination. Jax shouts no and pulls the power wire from Rollo's back. The small robot falls to the floor silent, and still Iria looks scared. She backs away and points at the door. She says they are here. They follow signal. They find her. Jax grabs his backpack and pulls her by the hand. They leave the garage quietly and head toward the old train tunnels beneath the colony. He does not know what is after her, but he knows it is not safe to stay. Above, the sky changes again, and something moves through the clouds without sound inside the tunnel. Iria walks close to Jax. She does not cry, but her eyes are heavy like someone who has seen too much. She says thank you with a voice full of quiet feeling. Jax looks at her and says you are not broken, and I will not let them take you. In the dark tunnel they walk deeper. Far behind them in the junkyard, the capsule blinks once and then goes dark. Far above, an invisible eye watches and records. A signal is sent across the stars to something ancient and cold. The message is short and clear. Subject: Iria has awakened. The tunnel is dark and cold with old rusted pipes running along the ceiling and the smell of whetstone filling the air. Jax leads the way with a small flashlight in his hand while Iria walks behind him silently, her eyes scanning every shadow like danger hides in all directions. They do not speak much, but their steps are fast and careful. Above them the sky remains still, but something is moving far beyond what the eye can see. Something, watching something, hunting. Jax knows these tunnels better than anyone else. He found them when he was just a kid looking for quiet places where no one could find him. He remembers hiding here when people laughed at his machines, when teachers told him he was wasting time. Now he brings Iria here because nowhere else feels safe. They stop near an old train platform, half buried in dust and time. Jax builds a small fire using a heat coil from his backpack. Iria sits with her back against the wall, her arms around her knees. She says nothing for a while, then she whispers one word in her language, a word that makes Jax ask, what does that mean? She looks at him and says alone. Jax feels something twist in his chest. He sits beside her and says, not now, not anymore. Iria looks at him like she wants to believe him, but fear still sits in her eyes like a shadow that never leaves. Later that night they hear a sound from above. It is not wind or animals. It is sharp and steady like metal clicking against metal. Jax turns off the heat coil and grabs his flashlight. He listens and hears it again. Something is coming from the entrance. He holds Iria's hand and they move deeper into the tunnel. Walls begin to change here. Old signs in a forgotten language line the path. They enter a maintenance room filled with old screens and tools. Iria touches a console and it lights up with a soft blue glow. She moves her hand across the surface, and the screen shows a strange symbol. A circle with 3 lines through it, glowing red. Jax asks what is that area. Says hunter signal. She says when someone like her is found, the machines from her world are activated. They follow energy patterns, trace movement, and send drones to destroy the target. They do not ask questions, and they do not stop. Jax says we have to leave. Iria nods, but her hand trembles. She says they are near now, maybe hours, maybe minutes. Jax grabs an old power box and starts building something. He connects wires and pieces a small trap from scrap. He tells Iria he will slow them down. While they escape through the lower tunnel, suddenly a screen flickers with a face. It is not human, not alien, but a machine mind. Cold silver eyes stare through the screen, and a deep voice speaks. Unauthorized subject detected. Iria, you are ordered to terminate. No value, no future, no mercy. Jax shouts back. She is not broken. The screen sparks and goes dark in the silence that follows. Iria closes her eyes and breathes deeply. She says something soft in her language. Jax asks, what did you say? She replies, I am not afraid. The tunnel begins to shake as heavy footsteps echo from above. A large shadow enters the hallway. It is a drone, tall and sharp, with claws made of light and armor that shifts like liquid. Its eyes glow red as it locks on Iria. Jax throws the trap device, and it explodes with a burst of light. The drone stumbles but keeps moving. Iria raises her hand, and a surge of energy flows from her palm. The lights flicker, and the drone pauses like confused. Jax yells now, and pulls her into a side door as the drone crashes through the wall behind them. They run through tight tunnels filled with steam and wires. Jax leads them to a ladder, and they climb into an old power station deep under the city. Iria falls to her knees, breathing hard. Jax helps her up and says we keep going no matter what. She looks at him and says, you should leave me. I am the target. He replies, then let them come. I will not run from them. In that moment, something changes in her. She places her hand on his chest and says thank you in a voice full of pain and hope. Jax does not move. He looks at her and says we fight together. Far above the clouds part, and a second drone descends from the sky. It joins the first and scans the earth below. Its voice sends a message to the stars. Target alive, resistance detected. Begin full hunt. The old power station hums with dead silence, broken only by the slow drip of water from a leaking pipe above. Jax and Iria sit in a corner, hidden behind fallen metal panels, while their breath fogs the cold air. She leans her head back, eyes closed, skin pale, her energy fading faster than before. Jax stares at a broken screen in front of them. Thinking, planning, building a map in his mind from memory and old stories. He knows the tunnels connect to the outer districts, and beyond that lies the forgotten city, where no machines go. They move again quietly. Jax carries a small toolkit and a pulse sensor while Iria walks beside him, her fingers trailing along the wall like she is reading its memory. She says this place is different from her world. In her world, everything is clean, quiet, perfect, and lifeless. Here she feels dust, sound, chaos, and warmth. She says it feels real. As they reach the lower levels, a strange hum fills the air like a signal deep under the skin. Iria stops and places her hand on a locked door. She whispers a word in her language, and the door unlocks by itself. Jax looks at her with surprise, and she says this place speaks to me. Inside they find a hidden chamber, filled with broken machines and old tech. Screens blink with weak signals, showing fragments of maps, numbers, and alien symbols. Jax wipes dust from a table and finds an old schematic of something large buried deep beneath the earth. He asks, what is this? Iria scans it with her hand and says escape. She explains that the signal chasing her is connected to a master core hidden in orbit. That core sends drones through portals each time she is detected. But here beneath this city is a lost human project, a prototype gate once built to reach new worlds. It was shut down long ago after something terrible happened. No one speaks of it now, but if they can find it and power it, maybe, just maybe, they can leave this world before the next wave comes. Jax's heart beats fast. He feels something new, not fear, but purpose. He grabs wires, tools, circuits, and begins repairing the power lines. Iria sits beside an old console, her eyes glowing faintly as she connects to the system. The lights flicker, the room shakes, and deep underground, something begins to wake far above in the sky. The two drones fly in circles, scanning streets and buildings. One of them lands on the roof of an old tower, its claws sinking into the stone. It sends out a sonic pulse that echoes across the land like a scream in a storm. Inside the tunnels, the walls vibrate, and Iria winces, holding her head. Jax grabs her and says, "They are close, we need to move now." They leave the chamber and take a narrow path down into the earth. The air grows hotter, the walls turn black with soot, and the sounds of old engines whisper through the stones. At the end of the tunnel, they find a gate, massive, broken, and covered in rust. A circle of metal with strange carvings and long silent cables spread across the floor. Iria walks toward it slowly, her eyes wide like she remembers it from a dream. She places her hand on its frame, and it responds with a low sound like a heartbeat. Jax begins connecting wires, attaching his energy cells to the control panel. Each spark brings the gate closer to life. Suddenly the tunnel behind them explodes, dust, fire, and light fill the air. A drone steps through the smoke, eyes burning like stars, and voice cold as steel. "Subject Iria, you are illegal, you must be deleted." Jax stands in front of her, holding a device in his hand, pulsing with energy. He throws it at the drone, and it explodes in light. The drone staggers but does not fall. It moves forward with slow steps, claws glowing. Iria screams, not in fear but in rage. Her body glows with a soft light, and her hair lifts like caught in wind. She raises both hands, and the ground itself vibrates. The drone pauses for just 1 second, and Jax uses that moment to finish the final wire. The gate begins to spin. Energy flows through it in waves of blue and white. A portal forms in the center like water held in air. Iria turns to Jax and says, "We must go now." He grabs her hand and they step into the portal together as the drone lunges behind them. Light wraps around them and the tunnel disappears. They fall through the stars, weightless and silent. Behind them the gate explodes and the drone is gone. Ahead of them, a new world waits, hidden and strange. The light fades and the world around Jax and Iria slowly begins to form into shapes. They land hard on a cold metal floor inside a large chamber filled with dust, silence and shadows. The air is thin and dry, and the walls are covered with markings, both human and alien, scratched by hands long gone. Jax coughs and sits up, his heart still racing, his hand still holding Iria's tightly. She looks around her, eyes wide, not in fear but confusion. This is not a new world, not a green planet, not a safe land. This is something old, something broken, something forgotten by time. They are inside a space station floating in the dark edge between stars left behind by both humans and aliens long ago. The gravity is weak but steady. The lights are dim but still alive. A distant hum runs through the walls like the last breath of the sleeping. Giant Jax helps Iria to her feet, and she walks slowly toward a broken console. She places her hand on it and whispers to the system in her language. The console flickers once, then opens a file. A voice begins to speak, a recording from years ago. The voice is human and female, strong but tired. She says, "If you hear this, then someone survived." She says the station was once a hope for peace between worlds, but it became a prison. She says the enemy found them and wiped out everyone but her. She says one girl escaped, and the rest were left to burn. Iria steps back, her face pale as the voice continues. The girl in the recording says she was one of them, born different, with feelings, with thoughts, with questions. She says others like her were destroyed one by one. She says if Iria is listening, then she must keep running because they will never stop. Jax looks at Iria and asks, "How many like you were there?" Iria's voice shakes as she answers, "Many, not just me, but they are gone now." They search the station, moving through dusty halls and shattered windows. They find old rooms filled with drawings, maps, notes, and broken tools. Some walls have strange messages written in both human and alien letters. Messages like "We are not errors," and "Hearts still matter," and "Do not erase." Using one room they find a photo. A human boy stands beside a blue-skinned girl, her eyes bright, her hand holding his. They are smiling, and behind them is a machine that looks like a small gate. Jax turns the photo around and finds a name scratched on the back. Hope Project area. Touches the photo like she remembers something, like a part of her past lives inside this station. She says maybe this was the place where it all began, where humans and her kind tried to make peace and failed. The lights flicker and a warning sound echoes through the halls. Iria runs to a panel and checks the signal. Her face turns cold and she says, they found us again. Jax clenches his fists and says, how do they follow us through gates? She answers, they do not need to follow, they are already everywhere, listening, watching, waiting. Her kind made them strong, made them perfect, and now those machines have become hunters without mercy. They rush to the command deck and find the control room barely holding together. Screens show space around the station, and Jax sees a small black ship slowly moving toward them. Its shape is like a spear, its glow red and cold. Iria says, this is not a drone. This is worse, this is a purifier. She explains that purifiers do not capture, they do not scan, they only destroy. If it reaches the station, everything will burn with it. Jax looks around and finds a locked chamber labeled engine core. He opens it and finds an emergency drive, a device built to send something far away using gravity slingshot. He says, we send a warning, we send the truth, someone out there needs to know. Iria loads the recording of the human girl from the past, the photo, the gate data, the message about the purifier. She adds her own voice saying, we are not broken, we are not mistakes. We are alive. Jax activates the drive and sends the signal out into space. A small pod launches into the stars, faster than anything they have seen. He turns to Iria and says, we cannot run forever. She nods and says, maybe we do not have to, maybe someone will hear us now, maybe someone will come outside. The purifier moves closer, its weapons charging, its scanners locking on. Inside the station, Jax and Iria hold hands and face the window as light begins to surround them. Far across the stars, a signal reaches an old satellite still listening. It blinks once, then sends the message to Earth. And on Earth, a light turns green. The purifier draws closer, its shadow stretching across the station like a wave of death, ready to erase everything it touches. Inside the command room, Jax stares at the screens, his mind racing, his breath shallow. Iria stands beside him, her hands shaking, her eyes filled with something between fear and resolve. The message is gone, sent into space beyond reach. There is no more time to run, no more tunnels, no more escape. The station begins to tremble as the purifier charges its primary weapon. Energy builds in the center of its core, a swirling red sphere that pulses with deadly heat. Jax turns to Iria and says, if we stay here, we die. If we hide, we die. But if we fight, maybe, just maybe, we change the end. Iria says, fighting will not stop it. This machine is not like the drones. It cannot be tricked or blinded. It is made for one thing, destruction. But Jax does not step back. He walks to the engine bay and begins pulling wires, tools, cables, metal rods, anything he can use. Iria watches him confused and asks, what are you doing? Replies, building the hours spent in junkyards, the years alone fixing broken things, the quiet belief that even trash can have meaning. All of it comes together in this moment. Jax takes an old fusion battery and connects it to a pulse emitter he found on the lower deck. He attaches stabilizers from a robotic arm and shields from a dismantled gate controller. Piece by piece he creates something new, something unstable, something loud. Iria steps forward and says, this will kill you. Jax smiles and says, then let it try. The purifier locks onto the station, its voice echoing through the void in a language made of metal. Target confirmed, known compliance detected, prepare for full erasure. Station responds with silence, but inside its heart something stirs. Jax finishes the device, a pulsing ball of energy held together by wires and hope. He straps it to his chest, connects it to his pulse, and says, if this works, I get one shot, just one, and that will be enough. Iria says, you cannot do this alone. He replies, I am not alone anymore, and neither are you. She places her hand on his forehead and closes her eyes. A light passes from her to him, soft and warm and silent. In that moment, their minds connect for just a second, and in that second, Jax sees her memories. He sees the cold halls, of her home world where feelings are punished and silence is law. He sees her standing alone while others turn away afraid of her kindness. He sees her watching stars hoping one day to find someone like her, and she sees him too. She sees the lonely garage, the broken machines, the nights full of stars and dreams. She sees the moment he opened the capsule and chose to care. When the connection ends, they do not speak, they just nod and move. The purifier begins to fire energy beams slicing through the outer walls of the station. Metal groans and alarms scream. Jax and Iria run through the shaking halls, dodging sparks and falling debris. They reach the outer airlock and open the chamber. Jax steps inside and seals it behind him. Iria watches through the glass, her hand pressed against it, her lips whispering words he cannot hear. Jax launches from the airlock, flying through the cold space with only his suit and his device. The purifier detects him, but too late. He crashes into its outer hull and clamps onto the surface. Wires spark, the device glows, and Jax stares into the red core in front of him. He thinks of the Junkyard. He thinks of Iria. He thinks of all things people throw away just because they do not understand them. And then he presses the trigger. Light explodes in all directions. The station shakes violently, and the purifier lets out a high mechanical scream as its systems overload. Flames spread across its body, and its core implodes, sucking in its limbs, its mind, its mission. In one final burst, the purifier vanishes into dust. The silence returns. Space becomes still again. Back in the station, Iria falls to her knees. She feels the light fade, and her voice trembles as she calls his name again and again. Nothing answers, only the echo of her heartbeat remains. Then a signal flickers on the console. One life form detected. Low pulse, weak heat, but Aliveria runs to the window and sees a small pod drifting. Inside is Jax, unconscious, bruised, but breathing. She opens the bay and brings him in, holding him close, her eyes full of tears that do not fall. He opens his eyes just a little and says, "Did we win?" Iria smiles and says, "You stood, and you made them fall, and somewhere out there in the stars the message still travels, searching for someone who will listen, someone who will believe, because now the war is not over, it is just beginning." Silence holds the station like a blanket, heavy and still broken only by the soft hum of power returning to the core. Jax lies on a medical bed, eyes closed, chest rising slowly, every breath a fight, every heartbeat a whisper of defiance. Iria sits beside him, her hand gently resting over his, holding him, grounding him, reminding herself he is still here. Is gone, burned into ash, scattered across stars, but its presence still lingers in the metal walls and the distant echoes of broken systems. Every light flicker, every strange sound makes Iria tense, makes her glance toward the shadows, as if another weapon might rise from the dark. She knows it is not over, not truly. Destroying one drone, even a purifier, does not stop a machine empire built to erase anything different. But for the first time, something inside her feels calm, not safe, but strong. Like a light has finally sparked where there was only cold. For so long, Jax wakes slowly, eyes blinking against the soft blue light of the healing pod. He looks at Iria and tries to smile, but his face is tired and bruised. She smiles back and says, "You are still alive." He answers barely, but alive counts, right? They sit in silence for a long time, words lost in the quiet space between pain and peace. Then Jax asks, "What happens now?" Iria looks out the window at the stars moving past the broken frame and says, "Now we begin again." She shows him the station map, reveals a hidden section deep beneath the lower decks. They travel there together. Jax limping but moving, refusing to rest while answers still hide in metal corners. They find a chamber, untouched by time, sealed with both human and alien codes. Inside is a long table filled with books, tools, handwritten notes, and one message written across the wall in both languages. It says, "The spark lives in those who choose not to erase." Iria touches the wall, and memories flash behind her eyes. She remembers the girl who spoke in the old recording, a rebel like her, cast out, but brave. She remembers a group of humans and aliens who worked together to create something new, not a weapon, not a gate, not a machine, but an idea that emotion is not weakness, that logic without feeling creates silence, not peace, that differences are not errors but sparks waiting to ignite change. Jacques finds a blueprint folded and hidden behind a metal plate. It shows a device not yet built, something designed to transmit across galaxies. Not just a signal, but a story of failure and hope. A record of what they lost, and what they still might save. He says we build this. Iria nods without doubt. Together they begin gathering parts from the ruined station, carefully fitting wires and systems. They argue sometimes over tools, over timing, over design, but they never stop. Because both understand now, this is bigger than survival. This is about making sure others never have to feel like trash, like glitches, like things thrown away. As they work, Iria begins to laugh at small mistakes. Jacques tells stories of Earth, of old junkyards and bad food and sky races where kids flew with handmade wings. She listens and learns and starts to imagine a world where people like her are not hunted, but welcomed. Weeks pass and the device nears completion. One night as the stars drift past the window, Iria sits alone staring at the photo they found earlier, the one with the human boy and the alien girl standing side by side, smiling like nothing else mattered. She whispers, "I hope they made it." Then she hears footsteps, and Jacques joins her holding 2 mugs of warm synth tea he made with what little power remains. He says maybe they did, and maybe their message reached us so we can carry it forward. The day comes when the device is ready. They place it near the main antenna system and power it on. It hums quietly, then grows louder, the lights pulsing in rhythm with Iria's heartbeat. Jacques uploads every file, every voice, every moment they recorded. Then Iria does something unexpected. She places her hand on the core and speaks not in her language, but in English. She says to those who feel broken, to those who were told they are not enough, to those who were thrown away, you are not alone. You are not worthless. You are not a mistake. You are the spark. Then she steps back and watches the signal rise through the antenna and vanish into the endless sky. Far across the stars, satellites begin to blink. Old machines reboot. Receivers hidden on far colonies begin to whisper. And on Earth a screen lights up in an old observatory where no one has visited in years. A message plays. A story begins. And a spark ignites. Jack stands beside Iria, and she turns to him with a small smile. He says, "Ready for what comes next?" She nods and replies, "Always."